I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, and nutrition. I have a syndicated radio show. I'm an award-winning author, and I've been in practice for 26 years. And I'm very excited today to talk to you about a product that the more research I do on, the better the product gets. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, and nutrition. I've been in practice for 26 years. I'm a syndicated radio show host, and I'm an award-winning author. And what I want to talk to you about today is a product that the more research I do on, the better the product seems to get. And that product is something called resveratrol. Well, the thing that people are doing right is I think we're going back to basics. We're starting to realize that there's so many chemicals and steroids and hormones and antibiotics that are being put into our food supply that people are starting to wake up and say, food does have an effect on my health. And so I think people are starting to revert back to the way things were years ago and eating more fruits, more vegetables, cutting back on the toxic foods, and trying to go to a healthier diet because they see the benefits almost instantly. Well, what I'm seeing as far as what are people doing right is a lot of people are starting to realize that, gosh, what I eat does have an effect on my health. And so I'm seeing a trend, although a small trend, that people are starting to go back to the way things used to be. More meals at home, more fruits and vegetables, cutting out on the processed foods. But that's a small minority of people. What we're trying to do is get that word out that it's easy and simple to naturally get well and stay well. The thing I see is that people are going more and more to fast food and convenience foods. And these foods are oftentimes packaged, they're loaded with steroids, chemicals, preservatives, and these toxic chemicals over time can build up in your body and actually lead to diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. And so what we're doing is we're going to an easier way of living because people say, well, I don't have time to cook, I don't have time to prepare food. I want to discuss with you some things that we can do to improve our health. Because if we don't do something now, we're in big trouble. This is the first generation, this young generation is the first generation that has a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And that scares me a lot. We need to do something. As a father, I'm very concerned about children's health. And there are easy things that we can do every single day to improve our health and increase our chance of living a long and happy and healthy life. Well, what I do see is a lot of folks haven't quite gotten on the bandwagon that what they eat does have an effect on their health. And so what they're doing is they're eating more fast food. They're eating more packaged foods. And with that, we're finding an increase in things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis. And these diseases are a direct effect of how you eat and how you live. So instead of going to fast food and packaged food, what we're trying to do is get the word out that it's easy, simple, and very inexpensive to eat well, whether you're at home or even on the road. Glucosamine is an important supplement I believe a lot of people need because essentially there's two types of arthritis, rheumatoid and osteo. Osteoarthritis, real simply put, is when bones move out of alignment, they rub up against each other and they wear out. It's a little more complicated than that, but just for general purposes, that's a good explanation. Rheumatoid arthritis is when the body actually attacks itself and the joints become inflamed. When joints become inflamed, they move out of alignment, then they rub up against each other. And so glucosamine, along with chondroitin, is an excellent supplement to actually help rebuild the joints. And in all my years of practice and all my study in nutrition, I find that this is the only supplement that has actually been shown in scientific studies to help rebuild the wear and tear on joints and help reverse some of that arthritis damage. By taking a supplement like glucosamine and chondroitin, we can actually help create a framework that can rebuild the cartilage that's been worn out between the joints. And so the cartilage lays down a framework, and then supplements can come in and actually add fluid to the joint. Chondroitin, for example, is like a sponge. It absorbs water up to 100 times its own volume. And so if we can build a framework and then add supplements to absorb fluid, we can rebuild that deteriorated joint. And I see it time and time again in my practice. When I take x-rays before and after our treatment plans, we can actually see the discs in most cases come back. Not fully, but they do come back. Harvard researchers have found this, what they call proverbial fountain of youth. It's a chemical called resveratrol. And when resveratrol gets into the system, it can actually activate what we call our longevity genes. And some scientists believe it can actually increase our life expectancy by up to 50 years. Now that's big. So resveratrol is a compound, and when it gets into the system, it's an anti-inflammatory, And what we mean by that is when the body has an injury, and all diseases have an inflammatory component, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, when there's inflammation, the resveratrol can come in and help reverse the inflammatory reaction, which is really exciting. It can stimulate the longevity gene. It can help keep your heart healthy and increase elasticity of your blood vessels. So resveratrol is a compound I feel everybody should be taking on a daily basis. And so this fountain of youth, this resveratrol compound, has been called perhaps the greatest discovery in health since antibiotics. And that's why I believe that resveratrol is an important component that everyone should be adding to their diet every single day. What happens is, as time goes on, our discs, or our spaces in between the joints, start to dehydrate. They lose their fluid and they start to wear out. And so what we want to do is we want to find something that can actually rebuild the joint and increase the space between the bones, because that creates more flexibility and that helps keep us young. Now, glucosamine chondroitins are wonderful because they actually lay down a framework for this joint to be rebuilt, and then it helps absorb fluid from the surrounding tissue and actually increases the size of the disc space or the joint space. And that's vital because it essentially reverses the aging process in the joints. And that's so important because as the joints wear out, they start to hurt. So we can do one of two things. One is we can cover up the pain, and there are certain things we can take, medications that'll cover up the pain, or we can try to rebuild the joint and actually treat the cause of the problem, not just cover up the symptoms. And that's the beauty of a glucosamine supplement. From a scientific standpoint, the glucosamine is what our joints are made of. So we need glucosamine, we need chondroitin, and if our body isn't producing it, because we do decrease our ability to produce it as we get older, we need to supplement. And by keeping those joints healthy, by adding the glucosamine and chondroitin, which actually can get into the joint and create the framework so that your joint can actually start to heal. And this is unlike any other supplement we've ever discovered. We can actually rebuild the joint and heal the damage that's occurred. And by giving the body ability to absorb fluid back into the joint, we can actually increase the joint space. And I see this almost every single day in my practice. When a patient goes through their treatment plan, we look at the x-rays from the beginning, we look at the x-rays at the end, and in most cases, we actually see the joint start to regenerate. And that's really, really exciting. The resveratrol stimulates your longevity gene. So many scientists believe that it can actually extend your life up to 50 years. Now that's exciting. This may be the greatest discovery in health since antibiotics. And so I see no reason why we shouldn't allow ourselves this incredible discovery to be utilized every single day in our lives. Because it's there, it's easy, and we see the results. It can increase heart health. It can increase elasticity. It's been shown to decrease the spread of cancer, especially prostate cancer. People say they have more energy when they're taking the resveratrol supplements. So a combination of the glucosamine supplement to help rebuild the joints and the resveratrol to increase blood supply, it can actually help prevent Alzheimer's. And the neat part about resveratrol, it's a unique antioxidant because it penetrates what's called the blood-brain barrier. Around your brain, you have essentially a force field that keeps bad stuff out. Well, resveratrol can penetrate or get into the blood-brain barrier, and it's been shown to actually help reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease. It increases brain function. It fights off those free radicals that are inside your brain. And we don't know of any other supplement that can actually do that can penetrate the blood-brain barrier and fight off damage that's going on directly inside your brain. Well, resveratrol, a lot of people hear about it because it comes from grape seeds and grape skins. And so we can use grapes as a source of resveratrol. The problem is that if the grapes are not organically grown, the chance of you getting any resveratrol at all is extremely low. So some people say, well, I'm going to drink wine because wine is high in resveratrol. I've read a study about that. What they're not getting is if the wine isn't organic, they're not getting a whole lot of resveratrol. The other problem is you have to drink an awful lot of wine to get the benefits, and then you have the alcohol. Alcohol can actually damage your brain cells. It can dehydrate your body. So if we can get all the benefits of an organic wine in a concentrated form with none of the downside, that makes sense to me. A better source than grapes is something called Japanese knotweed. it's a higher concentration of what's called trans resveratrol. It has to be in that form in order to give you the benefits. So the Japanese knotweed is a better source of resveratrol, higher concentration, and none of the downsides that you would get from drinking alcohol.